Ladies and gentlemen, let the infighting begin.
You're next! You're next! You're next! You're next! You're next! You're next!
Some other kind of process before they could commit.
And if we were to continue, in doing this, you clearly ticked off a bunch of people. You knew that. I mean, they weren't like shy about saying it, because generally the way it goes is you don't endorse against incumbents. Yeah, it really is kind of the unwritten rule in this. Tish James, who was a very vocal backer of yours when you were running for mayor, and even a backer of yours when I think it was pretty politically controversial to be so, had this to say. She said she and other political leaders she's spoken to are disappointed in Zohran Mamdani. All of us are a little frustrated with the Democratic Party, but you don't blow it up. That's what MAGA has done. What do you say to that?
I think what is the Democratic Party if not its voters? And what we saw yesterday evening were Democrats across the city turning out and voting for a new kind of politics.
Now that the dust has settled and the smoke is cleared, ladies and gentlemen, the Democratic Party has now been overtaken. We know this now, and is under new management. Zohran Mamdani came in with fake smiles and all, promising freebies galore. And now his new crew of newly elected Socialist Democrats didn't even bother disguising their disdain for this country or how they want to tear down the very fabric of this nation. And now that they've taken over, Democrats are no longer even bothering to hide how they truly feel about socialism. Take a look.
Congresswoman, in light of the wins last night in New York, be careful. Thank you. Is this the future of the Democrat Party? Is socialism the future of the Democrat Party? I mean, Democratic Party's always been diverse, right? I think that, people always want to claim it, but one of the things that I know this much, our Democratic base wants Medicare for all. They want universal health care. I can't express to you from even this housing bill that we're talking about, the number one issue and concerns is that our families are in survivor mode and they're exhausted and they want it to be better, right? And so many of the people may be Democratic socialists or not, but they're standing up and saying Medicare for all unapologetically. They're saying we need housing as a human right. They're saying, why are we investing in death and bombs and genocide when we can invest money here at home? And so I'm proud of them for being unapologetic about it. And I'm proud of them for listening, really listening to their constituents and running on those issues. And I can tell they're genuinely supportive of these issues. They're not doing it just for votes. They're doing it because of their own lived experience.
So the mask has come fully off, and Democrats are now admitting they are proud to embrace socialism. Not really the shocker I think most of us were thinking of, right? As they continue to try and rationalize it around this false hope that it actually will be a net positive for the masses if they somehow are able to gain enough power and able to have their way. And now, the reason why they are no longer really, hiding it is because of the recent uprising of the Democratic Socialists who have gone into these blue cities and been able to take over. Whether you're talking about how Democrat Socialists of America have been able to take over and become mayors in cities like Chicago, Seattle, of course, New York and Los Angeles, and is not even counting the recent radical socialist Mamdani minions who were just elected to represent several districts in New York. Meantime, the media is attempting to downplay it and compare it to the movement to when Trump won, ladies and gentlemen. Let that sink in. But Scott Jennings on CNN quickly points out the major distinction between the two. Take a look.
Thing a political party is going to do, it's to protect the political party as it currently is. And the people who know that the best are perhaps Republicans who experienced it vividly in 2016 when Donald Trump ran for the nomination, and he ran as an outsider, and he shook up the party, and he dispensed with all the establishment types, and then he took over the party with all of his extreme views on all sorts of things. And I call them extreme because that's what Republicans called them at the time. So, I mean, this is actually, in some ways, kind of a Trump playbook.
Well, except Trump wasn't trying to, bring about the downfall of Western civilization like some of these socialist candidates are in the Democratic Party. So, I mean, look, I'm not a Democrat, but I've been amused at the infighting in New York City today.
So Abby Phillips is comparing the MAGA Make America Great movement to what the Democratic Socialists of America are attempting to do. Because Make America Great Again and I forgot to get napkins, so I just wiped my hands on the American flag behind me are oh so similar. That's what Doraliza Chevalier said in her post. And when questioned about these things, here's what she had to say. Check it out.
Delegation, and you're going to appear in all sorts of people's ads, all sorts of Republicans' ads to say, this is what you're going to get if you vote for the Democrats, a communist.
You know, I think that framing is one that I've been very proud to be able to say I don't respond to, one in which I have been very intentional to say I won't be reactive. We are presenting a vision of what we're fighting for, and I think for far too long we have had politics that is reactive to what Republicans are doing. What we need is Democrats who are actually going to present a positive vision, one that sets the tone for what we should be talking about, which is the issue of affordability, which is the issue of how our budgets are moral documents. If we say that we want to invest in working people in this country, then we need to do that, and our budgets need to reflect that. If we say that we value immigration and immigration justice, we need to make sure that that is also reflective in our policy. And so I'm very proud of a campaign that we built that centers those ideals, that centers those values and that vision for what we need as a community. And that's how I'll continue to move forward in Congress. And I think that for far too long, this reactive conversation of what we should be afraid of has prevented us from being able to have a politics of hope and a politics of life that Democrats can actually identify with. When the majority of the Democratic base has been seeking for the Democratic Party to act.
I mean, there's nothing like throwing around the word affordability to mask actually answering the question of, could you explain to us why you're not a communist? Yeah, and as expected, now you have low IQ network TV shows that are nothing more than an extension of the party formerly known as the Democratic Party, trying to convince everyone that socialism is not such a scary thing. Actually, they want you to believe it's actually pretty good. Take a listen.
And they're not afraid of the term democratic socialism. If I fall down, I want an ambulance. If my house is on fire, bring your hose. You know what I mean? Yeah. We are looking, I'm not scared of the term. I think they're scared of the term in this country. But Social Security is a democratic socialism. Partly unemployment insurance is. The people who pick up your garbage, the people who take the fire out at your house, all of these things are democratic socialism. And there's a major reaction formation going on right now. If you see, we'll see soon, we're talking about it later, about Republican senators are turning, congressmen are turning on Trump. And people have had it with this right-wing, nasty politics that we've had to subject ourselves since this guy got into office.
Here's the trick that they try and play, ladies and gentlemen. They want to take basic public services that every modern country has, police, fire department, trash pickup, unemployment, Social Security, you heard them mention, and pretend that means democratic socialism is just normal government. No, that's not the same thing. Social Security is not socialism. Social Security operates as a social insurance rather than a government handout. It's earned benefits. Workers pay into it through payroll taxes. Money comes out of your check. Your employer pays into it, and later you receive benefits based on that system. That's not the government or the collective taking over means of production. Fire department, trash pickup, police department, roads being taken care of. That's not socialism. Those are public services paid for by taxpayers, because even in a capitalist country, you still need basic infrastructure and emergency services. But this is the word game that they want to play, ladies and gentlemen. They take things people already support, slap socialist label on it, and then try to use that to cover up a much bigger agenda. Because when these democratic socialists talk about socialism, they're not talking about your garbage being picked up. They're talking about massive government expansion, public control, wealth redistribution, confiscation of private property, government-run healthcare, rent control, reducing the power of the Supreme Court, and restructuring the economy around their ideology. And so Joy Behar can sit there and say, don't be afraid of democratic socialism. But that's because she's trying to make it sound harmless. She's trying to make it sound like socialism means firefighters and Social Security. But the real question is this: if democratic socialism is just trash pickup and Social Security, then why do they need to rebrand the entire Democrat Party around it? Why do they want to transform the economy? Why do they want to attack private industry? Why do they want government controlling more and more of your life? Because it's not, ladies and gentlemen. It's not about garbage trucks. It's not about fire departments. is not about helping grandma retire. It's about power. And that's why they have to soften the language, because they know if they tell people the full agenda up front, a lot of Americans would reject it. So instead, they hide behind popular programs and basic services and say, see, you already like socialism. But this is exactly what you get when leadership is weak and refuses to stand up against anti-American ideology. Like Hakeem Jeffries, who refuses to reject Mamdani's socialist cohorts, even at his own peril. Take a look.
I remember last time you were on and you said almost the same thing that you just said, and we all nod. And I know it takes time from the interview and everything, but it doesn't really answer the question that Andrew said. We all agree with what you just said, but it totally shifted from what we're talking about, is whether when the Democratic Party includes someone in that tent that believes these things, I don't think any of those things are going to solve what you just talked about or an answer to any of our problems that you delineate so eloquently. They were saying, you're next, about Hakeem Jeffries. You're next, you're next, you're next. You can't think this is a positive development in New York politics, can you? And they'll just, Dems will be Dems or something like that. I don't see how you can say that. You need you need to reject those things. I think.
First of all, I've clearly rejected those things. That's number one. Number two, and my record speaks for itself, this is not a Dems will be Dems situation. Donald Trump is the president of the United States of America right now. Are you kidding me? He just actually detonated a bipartisan housing bill that would help build housing in this country that is affordable for everyday Americans who are drowning and suffocating in Donald Trump and the Republicans' failed economy. He's the president right now. And so I'm happy to talk about primary elections in one of the bluest cities in the country. At the end of the day, listen, our focus is going to be on ending this national nightmare in this country that America is suffering. A reckless and costly war of choice that skyrocketed gas prices, the failure to lower costs, which Donald Trump promised that he would do, and a whole host of other challenges.
Hakeem,
and so because the establishment Democrats like Hakeem Jeffries were so Trump deranged and obsessed with how can they regain power and control at any means, at any cost, they gave in to the fringe far left of their party led by Zohran Mamdani. And now the clock is ticking. He is next, and the Democrat Party, as we knew it, will cease to exist. But now I want to hear from you. Drop your comments down below. As always, smash that thumbs up button. That's the best way to let me know you enjoy the content. For more, subscribe to the channel. As always, until next time.